In this episode, I go through and revamp the garage and try to make it a little bit more efficient for what I need on all my automotive repair and everything else we're doing. Stick around and I'll show you what I do. Alright, so much like most people who have garages that I'm working out of, I'm realizing that I'm running out of space very quickly, and in turn I was able to come across a real small cabinet, which is no big deal. I just painted red to match the US General toolboxes I have, and then it started to dawn on me like, wow, I could probably just start to spice up and make this place look a little bit better, and number two, I can gain functionality. And number two is most important, but if I can make number one happen, why not? So I'll show you roughly what I was able to pick up and what I painted and how this ended up snowballing into probably a pretty big project, but all things considered, pretty cheap, short of one or two things. Let's go. All right, so the first thing that came across was this motor. This motor is the D200's 383 that I had sitting in the bay next to us. That bay is gonna get rented out because Brandon is gonna be leaving, and that's where he has all his stuff. I had free storage over there for the moment until now. So brought the 383 back over here, threw this back up on an engine stand, and that's where it's sat. I'm not gonna fix it yet, I'm not gonna deal with it yet, maybe one day, but not today. But that brings us to what led me into this episode, which was me then buying a Army tool chest, which is right behind me. Guide this over. So this guy here cost me 50 bucks. It didn't look like this, it was pretty beat up. It's just kind of surface rust and everything else. I ended up painting it with Rust-Oleum toolbox red, I believe. It's gonna work well for what I need it for, which is just general parts storage and everything else. Each one has its own little tray on top. It all works. I went through and painted this. I probably have about 60 bucks total into it, maybe 70 since I replaced the casters at the bottom, but beyond that, it's gonna work well. But that then made me start realizing that I can continue to fix other issues inside this bay and continue to make some pretty good things to be functional and maybe make it a little bit more enjoyable down here and clean up that clutter on the back wall. So then it brought me to my next thing. Which then takes me to the workbench and the shop dog. The workbench I had picked up the metal for. It was 1/4 inch plate steel all around this thing. It's sturdy. It's completely overbuilt for what I need it for. 1/4 inch plate tops with 4-inch skirting on the sides. Has some reinforcements for the legs on going across, and I have it as an L bracket so I can put some wood or anything else I want there. Right now I just have some spare 1/4 inch plate steel that's going to act as a shelf. However, threw some stuff on the bottom here and it will work for what I need it for in case I want to disassemble heater box or I'm working on the seats or anything like that. I'm not working on the ground, I'm working up here. Definitely much bigger than I need it for the durability, but for the size it's about perfect. It's 8 feet long, 2 feet deep, 30 inches high is what I went. I can mount a vise on it if I want. Right now I can remove that vise, which I'm sure you guys will see me do because I still have more projects to work on. However, I can remove the vise. Eventually I'll probably drill some pilot holes and bolt it down, but until then it can sit just like how it is because it's not going anywhere. And then this, well, I just got to get thrown inside the shop. All right, literally that easy to install this. I have 4 casters on each wheel, on each side. They're completely pivotal. Another option too is having it so you just have 2 that are pivotal and 2 that are stationary or non-directional. But the pivotal work well for me in this situation. Another option though, what you can always do is put them so this side doesn't want to pivot 360 and it only wants to go forward and back, and you can move it that way. Other than that, I think I have about $600 in steel into this table. Now this table being overbuilt, you could definitely go with something cheaper, or you can go with thinner metals, just reinforce the top or whatever you want to do. But for the most part, I think I have $600 worth of steel in this. I had someone else build it for me on this table because, well, when you're welding steel, once you have the leg on, if you start welding it, it's going to want to kind of shift a little bit due to the heat. And honestly, my little 140 MIG welder is not going to be good enough to keep doing tons and tons of welding on 1/4 inch plate steel. I'll have to do multiple passes, and then I'm going to have to worry about all that. I just paid someone, so I think it cost me $800 at the tail end, give or take. I came up with a pretty dang good table, and in turn, I think it's going to work well for what I need. So here's the fridge that I added. I was able to pick it up. I think it was at Best Buy. No, I'm sorry, Home Depot on sale. They're punting these. It's not a frostless fridge freezer combo. So every once in a while you will have to go back through and deal with the fact you'll have to scrape the back, but it goes with the whole kind of retro theme that I'm trying to go. It's bright red. Everything else on here I'm trying to go to that color as well. And from there, I think it's really going to work pretty well. It's a decent size. It's cubic feet. I want to say it's like 7.8 or something like that. It's more than enough for what I'm going to need for down here. So I'm going to try to get it in the place where I need it, get it plugged in, and let that start cooling down so I can start getting some of these drinks actually over to this. So let's go. So I'm going to work on that blue one in the corner, just scuffing it and hitting it with some of that red paint as well. Just trying to get a little color onto it so that way hopefully it'll come up pretty nice. I think I should have enough. I think I have 1 can left, so we'll see if I got enough for it. Now I'm going to go over to these. I was able to pick these up. These are old, possibly like railroad electrical boxes. I don't know. I was able to find them cheap. A couple spiders living in here, but other than that, there's nothing. There's no shelves or anything like that. Well, I have a bunch of containers that I keep parts in. Those containers, for example, my miscellaneous bolt kits that I have. Just random stuff from Harbor or whatever I want to do with them. I need to be able to actually have a place for them. I thought about trying to make pullable drawers. Way too much work. Not going to bother with that. Instead, what I'm going to do is I'm going to utilize these just as a slide drawer. Hold on, these are pretty heavy. So I have 2. This one is just a cabinet opening style. This one is a double door. The cabinet style is too narrow. This is deep enough to where it will allow the Dorman storage boxes I have to be able to fit in here without any issue. And then from there, it's gonna make some shelves. So I'm gonna make a template right now out of some of this good old cardboard I keep stored up here, and go from there. all 9 shelves in. Hopefully they work well. I think they will. I'm gonna do a little test fit on them, make sure everything works well. I think they're all pretty well spaced out except for the bottom one. Bottom one's a little bit more narrow, but I don't care, it's the bottom one. So. Alright, so this is everything that's in it. I still have enough storage area down here on the bottom. Lighter stuff I have kind of towards the bottom right now because I don't really trust those welds as much as I trust the ones up top where I could see a bit better. However, what I will say is that everything came out pretty good. I have a little bit of space still on this side, probably about that much space where I can put little, maybe little smaller containers if I find them. But for the most part, this actually works pretty well for what I'm needing. And yeah, so from there now I'm going to get everything eventually back out of it. Go back through and sand everything down, and then just scuff up what I can on the inside, wipe out everything down, and then from there get some paint on it, and then start working on also the next cabinet over. So just making slow, steady progress in trying to get this thing done. I think what I'm going to do is remove the hardware. Never mind, it's riveted. So I'm just going to tape off this hardware as best I can on the outside because I want to keep that silver. I like how that looks. And then the rest of this can all go red though. And yeah, from there I think it's going to look pretty good. Let's try to get on it. Alright, that's going to finish up what I'm roughly doing right now on the outside. Just knocking down what I can and getting it a bit smoother. I could spend hours doing this. Going through and trying to get out every little imperfection, pounding out little dents. It's not the point. The point is that I'm trying to use what I got and trying to build this on a budget to where it's going to at least look good inside the bay. If you want, go spend the money on about 30 packs of sanding pads and just go through and start sanding everything down, and you can build it from there. I just want all the massive marks and like nicks out, so that way at least it's relatively smoother when I finally get it on paint. All I'm going to do now is go through on the inside, wipe everything down, brake parts cleaner, try to get every single ounce of dust out. I should have did it before I welded stuff in, but I'm doing it now, so be it. But I'm going to go through and then I'm going to probably hit that with black because I just need it just in a color. I don't need it red, I don't need it, I just need it in a color. So other than that, that's what I'm going to start knocking on now. It's been a few days since I was able to knock this one out. Finally got a night off from work, so I'm gonna switch over and try to knock out this one. So the goal is not gonna be the same like I did in this one. This one was multiple shelves for those little tool organizers that I have, those little tool boxes. This one's just gonna be a generic shelf. So what I'm gonna do is go through, clean this thing up as best I can, and then probably just weld in 1, 2 shelves maybe. Probably do 2 shelves, and beyond that, call it good. But let's try to get it cleaned up as best I can, get a template put out, and then get it painted. Alright, so this is how the shop sits now, and this is everything we were able to get done. So I have the 383 from the D200 sitting up here on the engine stand, just out of the way. It was in the other bay before, and now it's back over here. This was one of the tool chests that we redid already. It came out pretty well. I haven't remounted any hardware back on it. It's going to work well for holding DA sander, saws, stuff like that. It's going to work for what we need it for. Very cheap. I think we picked this up for 50 bucks, give or take. Maybe another, what, 20 bucks in paint and sandpaper and everything else. And it's going to work great. Going down onto the metal work table though, this one was a bit more pricey. I want to say it was probably about close to 600 bucks just in metal. The metal price is through the roof right now. However, it's going to work for what we need. 1/4-inch plate steel all the way around, plus all the like the legs and everything else. Got casters on here, so I can move it in all 4 directions and lock it if I need to. I'll probably eventually put wood slot on the bottom to make it so it's a little bit more of a functional bottom shelf. This just happens to be some of the plate steel that's left that I didn't use on the top. So other than that, we haven't mounted a vise yet. I'll probably change out, go to a different vise, and get it actually mounted. Working my way, still going all the way around. So the my air hose hookup that I did up on the top corner there, just going to be normal plate steel, welded to the side and bolted to that, so I can remove it when I need to. Then we have the fridge. This was, I think, a clearance special for Home Depot at the time. It was, I think, 250 bucks, give or take. The cart I picked up for free. Someone was throwing it out, so I picked that up. Again, one can of red paint and some black for the top. Good enough, and it works fine for what I need it for, which is hold fluids on my charging stations. Already had these rolling tool chests. Went through, again, everything is pre-organized as I need it for. Works for what I need it for. Some of my wrenches and stuff. Cutting through, already had this rolling tool chest, which is sometimes when I have products that I've showed you guys before, this is what I'm using to show in the front. Ended up picking that up on sale, another Harbor Freight special or wherever I got it from. Then these, so they were 80 bucks. Going through and replacing all the parts in them, welded in shelves to make it a little bit more efficient because they were empty. Again, some black spray paint on the inside and some red paint on the doors. It comes out looking pretty good. 9 shelves total inside here, I believe. 2, 4, 6, 8, 9. Plus I have a bottom shelf if I need to put anything in there. But this will hold everything I need for hose clamps. Eventually I'm going to start diving more into A&N fittings for what I'm going to need for the charger and the D200. Before I start running some additional power gains on those. And then the last one I just finished is going to be this cabinet. Nothing in here for the moment. Real basic. Just 3 shelves in there for some bigger items if I need to. But that way it can kind of hopefully free up a little bit on what I got over here on the shelves. So to show kind of what I'm going to be going forward with now, I still have I have all the interior I got to get in the charger. Still got to do the AC heater box rebuild. Let's see here. I have wiring still for 5-tech I got to get knocked out. I have fans that are supposed to be coming here eventually. I have a fiberglass hood that's supposed to be on the way. I have to redo the seats for both the back seat and the front seats. Working my way further down, I still have a whole bunch of stuff for the D200 I gotta knock out. Welding and floor pans and things like that. Ignition still has to drop onto the charger. Let's see, I have trim I still gotta get put on. Still have the rest of the fuel system I gotta hook up. So I'll show you guys how I do that. Needless to say, there's a lot left. So other than that, I guess if you guys like what you see, hit like, hit subscribe, and then that way you guys can know when I'm working on the next project on this. If you guys want to see me work on something specific, let me know, and I'll go in and I'll post what I can on any of them. I just did the clutch for hooking up all the linkages, so I'll post that. I just did the drive shaft loop on the drive shaft on this. So I still have to worry about ignition, still have to worry about quite a few. So until next time, I guess keep building.